All right, welcome to Sidelines on this Tuesday, man. I love it. We're that much closer to college football season. 48 hours away from Tennessee and Ball State. Also the Backyard Brawl, West Virginia and Pitt. So college football is here. We had week 1. I don't call it week 0. Sorry, we're going to be using the Roman calendar or whatever that Augustan calendar is. We've decided, Dudley Dawson made a point last week on the show from hogville.net. We ain't calling it week 0. We're calling it week 1. So getting ready for the first big weekend. Let's just say that of college football. All SEC teams are in action this weekend. Rob Browne here with you. Jimmy Hodge just got on the line with us. Doug Dean in Birmingham. AU Dose is going to be on with us in the first segment. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports. The Georgia Bulldogs, talking about the dogs, what's going on between the hedges. Top of second hour, Damian Mitchell, WJOX JOX Radio in Birmingham, joins us. This is going to be a lot of fun having him on. Frank Duffy's going to be calling in with us as well today. We got a lot to talk about. We're with you 8 to 10 always. And remember, we are on 6 all over the place, but Kicks 96.3 in Alexander City and the Lake Martin area. Thanks to all of our listeners, the great people of Alabama, the most passionate college sports fans in America reside in the Yellowhammer State. Look, Doug, this is joining me right now. I got the new ring light going. We're going to talk some college football right now, and I know you've got a lot on your mind. TJ Finley was named Sunday as the Auburn starting quarterback, but there's so many storylines out there right now. We can only do them one at a time. So, Doug, the stage is yours. Jimmy's on with us, and the listeners and I, we want to hear what you got to say. Doug, you there? Okay. All right. All right. Anyway, Jimmy, you're with us now. We're waiting for Doug to join in with us right now. Were you surprised, Jimmy? Doug should be with us momentarily, that TJ Finley was named the starting quarterback. And we know that. We talked about it some yesterday. But I say this, that's why you got those early games to determine, who is most effective. And Doug, just jump on in when you're on with us. Yeah. Okay. But I don't think anybody should be really surprised by that. And I think Auburn fans have got to quit the self-loathing, not waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, that's a lot of fan bases. I mean, look, what's going on in Alabama and what's going on at Georgia. that kind of stuff. They're having unprecedented success. We talked with Wesley Britt yesterday. Alabama's trying to figure out, are they going to be better on the offensive line? Georgia's got to replace a bunch of people from last year's team. 5 first-round draft picks off that defense, 15 in the NFL draft. That's the most in the modern era. I don't remember. I know Ohio State and LSU have had 14 before, but 15 last year. Georgia still got a lot of talent. Okay. There's no doubt about that. Jimmy. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were going to.
Yeah, Frank. We're trying to get Frank. We're trying to get.
Are you there?
Yeah. Doug. Yeah, you might want to turn down. Yeah, I don't know what. There was some echo back in there right now. Just make. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, this is better. Yeah. Okay, Doug. Let's get right to it. College football, man. Auburn's getting ready. Not the biggest challenge against Mercer Saturday, but it will be. Hey, TJ Finley started a few games last year after Bo Nix got hurt. So, your thoughts from the AU dose down in Birmingham?
Yeah, no, I'm still getting an echo, Rob. I don't think it's on my end.
Okay. All right. We're having we're interrupt this program to tell you we're having a few technical difficulties. And Jimmy, let's do it while we're trying to work that out with Doug. Let's do this. Let's get your thoughts on it right now. I mean, TJ Finley, he started before, but he's had a spring practice and all that to go with him. Your thoughts about that?
No, I think he's the obvious choice because in Harson's scheme, I mean, he wants a quarterback that can go through progressions. If the primary receiver's not open, he wants his quarterback to be patient enough to see if his second, third, or fourth options are available. And he is the prototype drop back passer. And that's how Harsin likes to try to move the football, of course, to mix that in with the running game, because if you don't have a prolific vertical passing game, then opponents are just going to cheat 8 guys up into the box, cover your receivers man to man, and just dare your quarterback to beat them with precise throws. Because even if a DB gets beaten by a step, if it's 20, 30 yards down the field, it still takes a very accurate pass to get a completion. So I think opponents are going to take their chances using that strategy if they know the opposing quarterback is not an accurate passer. And, Finley, when he gets in a groove, he really has good moments. And last year, of course, Georgia State is the most obvious instance. But then, in the Iron Bowl, he had some really good moments too, even though he was, playing with an extremely bad ankle, which pretty much eliminated his mobility. So he's definitely got talent. I think he just needs some confidence. And the other 2 quarterbacks are in a little bit of a different situation because Calzada was injured and missed the entire spring. And, by missing all those practices and getting to play in the A-Day game, which, it's not a real game, but still, though, it's a game-type situation in front of fans, you can't substitute for that in practice. So evidently, he struggled and trying to learn the offense and progressing in preseason camp, because it is a limited time, and the coaching staff is under pressure from a time standpoint to get guys ready as soon as possible. And then Ashford is your kind of maybe Bo Nix type of player that's going to give you a real running threat. And, if he can throw the ball effectively, he could be a factor for Auburn, because, it makes defenses have to deal with a dual threat quarterback. And if you get one of those type players, that throws the ball accurately, he can be very dangerous.
Yeah. Doug, come on here with us. Doug Dean, AU Dose. We had a few technical difficulties. I do not know what was going on, but Doug, let's get your thoughts.
Yeah, I was getting feedback here. I don't know if it's ring light. I don't know why that would cause feedback, but we'll figure it out. And, they say that you improve the most from game one to the second game. So this is game one, Rob. We'll get it figured out before the next we talk about Auburn Mercer. And that'll be difficult for me because I'll be incommunicado in Quetico in Ontario, canoeing those lakes with my son-in-law. But yeah, it's here. The real football week is upon us, and there are several real games, if you will. I guess just because of the shakeup at different positions, the big loss. Everybody wants to talk about QB1 and who can blame them, but you look at the loss of Nick Brahms, which I reported to you guys, I guess a couple of weeks ago, and it was made official yesterday. He's out for the year. So all eyes this Saturday night on Tate Johnson, who will start. He's gotten rave reviews in camp, but you know how that can be when you're not used to playing under the lights. But the big loss with Brahms, he was certainly not an All-American, but when you got a veteran like that knows what it's like to play in a loud stadium like Death Valley, Knoxville, and Bryant-Denny, that's a loss no matter how you slice it. I wanted to footnote before we get into what I'd like to talk less about the Auburn Tigers today and more about what I consider some of the most several compelling stories with a heavy SEC flavor, because let's face it, the odds on that the SEC is going to once again hoist the college football national championship trophy. Prove me wrong, Ohio State or someone else. But a footnote, I don't want to make too much of this because it's really not, but a little bit of a stub toe by Brian Harsin in announcing QB1, guys. He just leaks it to Chris Lau of ESPN, steps out of the Auburn ecosystem, the Auburn beat writers, and didn't even announce it with some kind of exciting ritual and cheering by the whole team, announcing TJ Finley as the starting quarterback, which was not news. We knew that was coming. No one else was really threatening him for a real competition. But Coach Harsin, I think you got a chance to turn the corner here, but get the easy stuff right, Brian Harsin. Your thoughts, guys?
Well, I agree with what you're saying. And a lot of the coaches at Auburn, they're not easy. They don't deal with the local media. They try to go straight to the national media.
Yeah.
Shame on them.
And the national media is not endeared to the Auburn fan base, shall I say.
No. Far be it from them to ever check their facts before they go try to, run Auburn's name through the mud. And again, the Allen Green story, they didn't get it right. Anyone that knows anything about that knew Allen Green had been actively pursuing other jobs and
was a terrible fit. Only Skarbinski got it right.
Yeah. Thank God for Kevin Skarbinski, true grit journalism. Hey, get it right. Don't try to just get it first. And
can we dive into the compelling stories?
Yeah, because Frank's on here. We're having some technical difficulties we're going to work on with the StreamYard, but Frank Duffy's on.
I was just going to tell my buddy Doug, just be happy he didn't tell the national media in a Southern accent.
The family. Yeah, I would have loved. I wish Brian Harsin would go rogue a little bit and do his best impersonation of Brian Kelly saying family.
The Auburn family saw it in TJ.
It works better in the loveliest village, right, Frank?
It goes down like good pancake syrup, brother.
Family. By the way, Rob and I are working on Friday, September 30th, coming up. This will be a day that lives in infamy at my lake house in Blue Creek. I'm not giving the coordinates. We'll have a problem. We'll have an invasion of Cajuns, which would be fun. But we're going to see if we can pull off. Y'all can get there timely and maybe do this show from Blue Creek on Lake Martin.
That'd be awesome. That'd be a kick, man. I'm looking forward to it, buddy.
All right. So, let's take the pledge to be as pithy as possible, and I'll try to live up to that because a lot to cover here. But here are my compelling. Some of these are kind of Captain Obvious, but the compelling stories that I'm seeing on the crystal ball. It's a little dimly lit, but that'll get better week by week. To me, you've got to make the Georgia Bulldogs the most interesting, compelling story. Don't worry, Bama fans, you'll be right on the heels of this. And by the way, Audrey and Jimmy Hodge are going to love me on this segment, I can promise you. Georgia was 21 a one-off? I don't think it was. I think even if Georgia drops a couple and even doesn't win the East or doesn't make the playoff this year, because let's face it, they're almost certainly going to face the Crimson Tide to try to punch their ticket there. And that, I guess the same thing could happen again, lose that one and then see Alabama again. I don't think that'll happen. But Georgia could have a drop-off year and then be right back in 23. I want to be clear about that. But does Kirby prove this year that he has built a Death Star and reloads, making the playoff and sort of 1A with that? The Stetson Bennett, when all is said and done after this season, come to regret not riding off with the penultimate career-ending, lifelong finish for Dog Nation, and instead end his career with fans at some point this season demanding a QB change. If he pulls them back to a playoff run, Stetson Bennett, he can go in any restaurant or bar in the state of Georgia and never spend a dime.
Well, he can already do that. I would.
That's right.
I mean, Frank bought him breakfast last week.
I was afraid it would cause my NIL deal with LSU to go bad, so I didn't want to do that.
Well,
y'all agree with me? That's one of the compelling stories this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, about Stetson Bennett. I mean, and there's still people that go, we got other quarterbacks. We're gonna. Let me tell you something. We're living in an age right now when intelligent people with intelligent thoughts are told to shut up and sit down, so stupid people feel less offended or less uncomfortable. I mean, this is what happens. That's Stetson Bennett is the man. He was one of the best stories last year.
I'm not pulling against the kid. I mean, he certainly won me over. He ripped Auburn for some big throws.
Yeah.
And Georgia
he should be embraced by Georgia fans. There is absolutely no doubt. They should not turn Aaron Murray on him. They should embrace him. He brought them a national championship.
Hey, hold the thoughts, Frank. We're going to take a quick break. I want to talk about that when we come back. Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Doug Dean, Rob Browne with you. Sidelines. After this, more college football compelling stories.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, it is Compelling Story Tuesday here on Sidelines. And Doug, answer and keep going on that compelling.
All right, so compelling story number one is Kirby. And I'm he's not my favorite coach mainly because Auburn doesn't beat Georgia lately. But you got to tip your hat to Kirby and what he's building, especially on the recruiting front. And they've shown that they can go toe to toe with Alabama. At least, admittedly, Alabama didn't have a full roster offensively. So that game might have been different. But does Georgia rebuild and show that they're a force to reckon with, or does it feel more like a 21 was a one-off and Alabama's still king of the hill? My answer, I'll give you the cheat sheet, football fans. What I see coming is Georgia has a slight drop-off. You just put so many people in the NFL. It's a forgivable sin to have to reset and rebuild a little bit. So I'm looking at, and Audrey's going to love me here, a possible Tennessee Vols SEC East winner if they can, which I'm expecting, I think they're going to make the Tennessee-Georgia game a head-to-head tiebreaker in the East. I see the Vols, and Duff is going to love this. They lose back-to-back at LSU. Death Valley's hard, right up there with Jordan Harris.
Tough from at home. We always
tough place to play in Death Valley. And then obviously at home versus Alabama. Tennessee they've got a ways to go to play toe-to-toe with Bama, in my opinion. But then they run the table from there, beating Kentucky, Georgia in Athens, November 5th, and Mizzou. Why? Quarterback matters. Hendon Hooker, it's not talked about enough, Rob and gang. He threw for 68%, 2,945 yards, 31 touchdowns, and the biggie, only 3 interceptions last year. So he's the most efficient. That's the most efficient quarterback year in Vols history, and that's where Peyton Manning played. So when you've got a quarterback like that, dare I say, Rob, Duffy, and Jimmy, there will be a happy Hooker in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. Doug.
I had to do it.
You did. It was inevitable. I mean, we've been waiting on it.
And
Doug, I go along with everything you said. I think the fascinating part of this year, it's really going to be Kirby Saban 3.0, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to use Rob's, line of work, it's sometimes not what you make, it's what you keep. And I think with Kirby attaining that summit like he did last year, now the tough part is keeping it. And I think their defense last year was a once-in-a-generational defense like my offense was in 2019.
Here.
Good
It's
point.
not easy to replicate. We proved that coming out against Mississippi State in our opener after the national championship. I think the Dogs are going to take a couple of weeks to get that defense, playing anywhere close to the level it was. And if you're not having that defense and you're not running the ball maybe as well as you did with that seasoned backfield of Zeus and company, then you might have those hiccups. And Tennessee is waiting, early in the year. So I think you're exactly right, Doug. I think it will be Georgia and Alabama in the Georgia Dome. I hate to say it, in the MBS. I hate to say it, but I think Georgia really has a lot more to prove than what people are thinking. They're rubber stamping those W's pretty damn quick over here in Georgia. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Compelling story number 2. Jimmy's got to react first to this, if you don't mind, Rob. Does Nick Saban and Bama roar back from the sting of losing to Georgia in the title game, which I think they will, or do their losses on O-line and elsewhere create something of a sophomore slump in a couple of games for Bryce Young? My answer, well, let me get Jimmy's take first, and then I'll put a smile on Jimmy's face.
Well, you could just tell by Saban's appearance at SEC Media Days that just reading between the lines, he knows he's got a really good team.
Yeah.
And he's expecting to go out there, and you could just tell the way he talked in his opening address. Our plan is to go out there this year and just every time we line up, we're going to open up a can on somebody. They're going to try to make a point that last year we had a very let's say a different type of team where we had a number of players that we had to replace last year, and there were several weeks that we all know in which this team was not focused.
Mm-hmm.
And he feels the leadership on this team is such that that type of complacency isn't going to happen. And they have so many, good players back. You could certainly say the 2 best players in college football, Bryce Young and Will Anderson, on your roster, possibly the 3 best pass rushers in college football. And so I think they're going to be primed and just, ready every week. But I think they really are on a mission. And just think about the fact that last year, with all the flaws this team had, and yet they were just 2 injuries away from winning the national championship to their wide
Bingo.
receivers.
We should all have down years.
Yeah,
with one loss.
A rebuilding year. Yeah.
Hey, all right. Here's a cheat sheet answer. I've got taken several smart pills that Leonard Post-Toasty gave me before the show. That pains me slightly to say this, only because I'm an Auburn guy, and you know that deal. But the Tide is going to roll. I don't think anybody really gives them a serious test. Maybe an LSU, maybe a Texas A&M. But boy, do you think Saban's not licking his chops for that game after last year and the off-season flap? But I think Alabama, the talent and coaching gap is still too wide. And so even as Nick rails against the lack of competitive balance in college football, they run the table unblemished. Bryce Young will struggle in a couple of games, making it 4-quarter. But here's, as Jimmy said, Alabama has an eraser. You can make a mistake offensively, a pick. Will Anderson will correct it before the game is over. And here's the shocker. Will Anderson gets the trip to New York City for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, not Bryce Young.
I think both will go.
Exactly
Both,
right.
yeah, maybe both go. Maybe both.
20 plus sacks, you watch.
Yeah, but with 2 players going to New York, that's going to split the vote, and Stroud's going to win.
It could, yeah. And there might be some other player emerge. You were going to say something, Duff?
No, I was just going to say, I think Will definitely is going to be in New York. He'll have the suit on, and I think the kid gets another 20 plus sacks. And what's scary is you can have as many sacks almost on the other side because of all the offensive line that's going to be leaning over to his side. I mean,
Yeah.
Alabama's defense, look, they've always
They're for real.
defenses, right? This defense is going to be special. If they can get the offensive line to play anywhere close to Alabama offensive lines in the past, they're going to steamroll everybody. And believe me, Doug, I throw up in my mouth when I say that too.
I hear you. Now, compelling story number 3. Do what I'm calling the Tier 2 SEC teams just below Alabama and Georgia step up and give us and combat some of this damn boredom that's set in, unless your name is Jimmy Hodge or a Georgia fan. And they love this boredom. But the Tier 2, you can name it however you want. In the East, Florida, this year Kentucky perhaps, Tennessee, and then in the West, LSU, Auburn, maybe Auburn, probably not this year, but they're Tier 2 historically, Texas A&M. And you can possibly add Arkansas or even a Lane Kiffin coached Ole Miss. Do any of those step up? And I'll warm it up by my quick answer. I think it's interesting in the East in early November. It's still a horse race, thanks to Tennessee, possibly Kentucky. But I think Bama wraps up the West with their, sorry, Duff, November 5th win, a 4-quarter game in Death Valley, their late win over LSU to wrap it up.
We play them much better in Tuscaloosa. It's always it's always a uphill battle in Baton Rouge with them. They always have our number when they come in.
Rob? All of LSU's national championships have included a win in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
It's just weird how it works. And a national championship game win
in New Orleans. Yeah, that's right.
Your thoughts, Rob?
Look, my take on Auburn is, Brian Harsin, again, take care and work with your local media. Start with the people in Auburn. Okay. You really need, in fact, I would recommend after the game Saturday, which you should win easily, that you go out and just walk around campus and familiarize yourself with the fans. Go to some tailgate parties, visit with people, eat some of their
Join
food,
the family.
talk to people.
He's going to need that support from the family. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. Because
and I think the over-under for him coming back went from 7 to 8 games, maybe 9, depending on which games they are.
Yeah. Stuff like this, I am an Auburn graduate, but I'm harder on Auburn, more critical of Auburn than I am of any other school, because that's my alma mater. My father's, my sons, and my families are just, it's in our blood. But take care of these local people. I mean,
compelling story. Got to stomp the accelerator. We'll be at break. Compelling story number 4. Just my opinion. There's a bunch more narratives that will emerge.
Yeah.
Do the new SEC teams, Oklahoma and Texas, show evidence this year of being remotely ready to play big boy ball in a year or two in the Southeastern Conference? Now you get an early preview on September 10th in Darrell Royal, Texas Memorial Stadium. And my take on that, sorry, Longhorn fans, Matthew McConaughey's bold, all right, upset pick of Alabama on game day will fall flat like one of his early rom-com films. Alabama
bombs when we went in and beat them in 2019. Wait till the tide rolls through there. With all Texas' expectations, Alabama, a pissed off Nick Saban? Brother. Good luck.
Yeah, Sark is smart, but Alabama is going to show them, here's the gap you've got, the delta coming to the SEC. Alabama covers the 17.
Yeah. I would not like to be Quinn Ewers on September 10th in his second college start.
Yep.
Well,
man, I'm going to pay for it being so lovey-dovey with the Crimson Tide today.
Well,
boy, no kidding. I'll tell you what, I need to go take a shower.
Well, I mean, our friend Chuck Oliver, Southern Sports Today, Frank, said recently he cannot remember in the last 40 years the talent gap being so wide, the gulf between Alabama and Auburn. And
here's the bad part. It's not the first string. It's not the starters. Dude, it's second and third string. Their depth. Look at Alabama's 3 deep. Oh, my God, there's freaking 4 stars and 5 stars, and they're 3 deep.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got third stringers that would start at Auburn.
Absolutely. At LSU, too. It's crazy.
Yeah. Can I shoehorn one more in, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll be quick. Brother? This is hot seats and the coaching carousel will be a major story. Goes without saying, Brian Harsin, fair or unfair is crazy. He's in his second year and we're impatient, but you know the deal. He's not recruiting like you've got to. People see that. He may not have – I think he made a step to endearing himself, being a little more, having more affect. That's what we like at Auburn, genuine, authentic coach that loves the Auburn culture. I think it's going to help him to run the record to 5-0. I'm sorry, Duff. If Brian Kelly beats Auburn and Jordan Hare early, look out for the Bengal Tigers.
Yeah.
Does Lane Kiffin continue his wandering eye? No pun intended. Relax. I'm referring to other head coaching jobs. Or does he reload?
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'll have the hotty-totty nation after my ass.
Yeah.
Does Mark Stoops pull off a 10-win year and cash in the chips for a job at a, wait for it, football school paid to John Calipari?
Yeah.
And could Auburn be a destination if the job is open?
Yeah. Look, Doug, we have run out of time. Jordan Hill's on the line with us, and from 24/7 Sports over in Athens. So we are going to talk about Kirby in Georgia. But Doug, you have really opened up a can of worms, and I think it's great. Because these compelling stories, they're what matter. But
provocateur.
Hey, provocateur extraordinaire. That's a good name for a wide receiver. Okay.
It's not serious. We're just having fun, Georgia fans.
Yeah, we're having fun. All this stuff. You know what? If we didn't laugh at ourselves, we'd all be insane. Doug, great
guys,
report.
Great to talk. Y'all have a great day.
All right, you do too. Thanks. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports. Between the hedges over in Athens, the eyes and ears of the Dog Nation, man. I tell you what, you are on the ground there, getting whatever you can from the stretching that you get to see and whatever you find out about practice. But really appreciate you taking time to be on with us this morning. Normally do it StreamYard, but today we're doing the old-fashioned way. No, 3 weeks into StreamYard, we're calling that old-fashioned. Anyway, glad to have you with us. What's the takeaway from the last week in Athens with the practices and any position battles and all as they try to replace a lot of talent, but they've got the players to do it with, it looks like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think if you're a Georgia fan, you should be, excited. I mean, just, generally because of coming off national championship season and the talent they got coming back. And two, I mean, things have looked good from what we've gotten to watch at practice. There's been a few key position battles we've really followed, even going back to spring practice. I mean, offensive guard and inside linebacker, probably the two biggest ones. And, I think there's been positive feedback and positive results from what we've seen. Kirby Smart talks about specifically the offensive guard battle on Monday, kind of kicking things off, getting ready for the Oregon game. And, said something that I didn't think was necessarily a big surprise. I mean, that he expects that competition to go into the season. But, it really looks like Xavier Truss, a junior, who actually came to Georgia as an offensive tackle and then shifted inside. He's probably going to be that left guard. And probably the best news for Georgia is Tate Ratledge, a guy that got hurt, I think, 4 plays into that Clemson game last year, has battled back, dealt with a little bit of turf toe during fall camp, but looks like he's ready to go at right guard. I think they've got a really formidable group up front, a good 5-man line. I think they should be excited about that. And then inside linebacker, I think we're going to see several different guys. I mean, Jamon Dumas-Johnson is going to be the main guy, but Smile London and Tresman Marshall, and they've got a few other experienced guys behind them. We've gotten to see good things out of that group. I think these first few games, really with those two position groups, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few different guys get in the mix as Georgia tries to get these guys tested. They always say it's not the same, out there on the practice field as when the bullets are flying on Saturdays. So these guys are going to be tested, but I think if you're a Georgia fan, you should feel pretty good about where this team is getting ready for another season.
All right, look, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sidelines. I want to thank our sponsors, great ones like Gateway Tire and Service Centers. They go the distance for their customers and the communities where they are. Back in 1 minute.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we got us a damn good dog on right now. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports over in Athens, talking about Georgia's team defending the national championship. And Jordan, another question, and we know that Jermaine Burton's on the team at Alabama, caught about 500 yards worth of passes last year. He wanted to go somewhere different. He did. What about the battle to replace him? Georgia, again, they're recruiting right up there with Alabama on that same level. So they've got players, and we're going to find out soon who the difference makers are, but you got a couple of names you want to throw out?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think at receiver, it kind of starts and stops with Adonai Mitchell, who, for people who are listening who may not be familiar, he's a guy that made a really big 40-yard catch against Alabama in that national title game, kind of reached behind the DB in coverage and made a great play in the end zone. He's been kind of looked at as the guy, as the top receiving target, at least at wide receiver, going in even back in the spring. And everything we've seen has said he's ready for that challenge. He's really lived up to the hype through the preseason. But again, the expectation is going to go up a little bit once you get into this season. So I think Adonai Mitchell is looked at as the main guy. The top three receivers are Adonai, Ladd McConkey, who made a lot of plays as a redshirt freshman last year, and then Kieris Jackson, who's one of the older guys on this entire team, and is one of the few seniors. Those are kind of the top three receivers, and then you factor in those tight ends, so I know we're going to get a whole lot of work in the passing game. And my expectation is really Brock Bowers and Adonai Mitchell will kind of, push each other for, who winds up leading this team in yards and who winds up having the most touchdowns as far as receiving touchdowns. But Adonai Mitchell looks the part. I think he's ready to take a step forward, and he's going to be a very important part of this offense going into 2022.
Yeah, and the bottom line is the tight end room at Georgia, throwing Eric Gilbert and Darnell Washington, the 6'7" kid out of Las Vegas, 5-star. There's a lot of talent on that roster. And the scary thing, yeah, Georgia's got to replace some guys. Pickens gone too, but that tight end group is so good and so athletic, freakishly athletic. It gives defensive coaches nightmares. It keeps them up at night. Okay, they're going to have to read the Norton Anthology of English Literature to be able to fall asleep. Believe me, that one is a killer. So, I just think about a 6'7" tight end. How you going to cover that guy? Frank, Jimmy, anybody, Bueller, anyone have any ideas how you do that when you've got multiple guys like that on a roster?
Yeah, and you haven't even mentioned Eric Gilbert.
Yeah, we did, but he's a freak.
Yeah, I mean, he in the spring, by all accounts, really showed a lot of progress. Picking up the offense, and in a way, he's sort of like a caged lion. He really hadn't played football of any significance or really any length in a game situation in 3 years now. So he's chomping at the bit, but. Duggan mentioned, Georgia's ability to, follow up the national championship with another big year is one of the most compelling stories, or his number one compelling story. But for me, I would not put that at number one just because of the talent level Georgia has coming back. They got their starting quarterback coming back, but I just can't get away from this, that I've never seen a defending national champion from the SEC who has just a favorable schedule as this looks. I don't know that they'll be less than a double-digit favorite, in every game. But the first one that really stuck out to me was this South Carolina game. But then when I had a chance to look at it, you're playing in Columbia, probably at 12 noon. It's going to be 100 degrees plus, and if Rattler gets on a roll or something, that could be an issue. But at the time, I didn't realize that South Carolina is going to be coming off a road game in Fayetteville, and I looked for that to most likely be an L. And Georgia's just going to be in a I think a pretty good spot because they'll be coming off a game against Samford.
Yeah,
and then when I look when Auburn goes to Georgia on October 8th, Georgia's coming off a game against LSU, an LSU team that has a lot of players who want to settle a score not only from last year but 2 years ago when they got humiliated at Jordan-Hare. So I think they're Auburn's going to be coming off a really tough game before they go to Gainesville. And
Auburn to Gainesville?
Auburn's going to be coming off I'm aware it's been Athens, Rob. Yeah. And give me a break here.
Okay.
They're coming off a tough game against LSU, and I tell you what, Georgia's going to be laying for them because I think they're going to have a pretty good outing against Missouri, and I think they're going to be in game number 5 or 6, game 6. So I think Georgia's going to be in mid-season form by that time, and then when they have what I consider a little bit of a stretch here, starting with Florida, and then you follow that the very next week with Tennessee, and then Mississippi State with that air raid offense, and then Kentucky. Now that's that stretch that could be interesting, but by that time, though, Georgia will be 7 or 8 games in, and I think their starting units will really have had a chance to mesh together, and really kind of be operating very smoothly by that point.
Especially on the defense side.
Yeah, is there a question in there for Jordan?
Well, I'll just say, I'll just, hit on that point. I mean, to me, the back end of the schedule is going to make or break if this team is a playoff contender. I mean, the fact that you end October with the Jacksonville game, which I've said this several times, you know, I've gone into that game and fans have gone into that game many times where you go, okay, Florida is the clear set favorite. You know, Florida should win this game, then Georgia wins. And then the vice versa. You go in, I remember the year Will Muschamp was in his last year at Florida, and it was everybody had made up their mind, you know, Georgia was going to blow them out of the stadium. Well, then Florida runs for, 300-something rushing yards on Georgia and wins that game.
Yeah.
So you never know what to make out of that game. And then you go into November with, you're lucky, I think you play, you know, it's been official, you play Tennessee at home, but then you got back-to-back road trips to Mississippi State and Kentucky. A Mississippi State team I'm pretty high on. I think could win maybe 8 games, maybe flirt with 9 games. You know, that's going to be a big game on the road, and then having to play Kentucky again, too. Having these games at the end of the year, I mean, it's going to be about how healthy Georgia is. If they're really beat up, you know, those games are only get that much harder as they're trying to close out the season.
Frank?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you, Jordan, and I agree with you, Jimmy. I think that Florida-Tennessee, I mean, that's going to be the stumbling corner right there if Georgia's going to stumble. And I'm telling you, Florida's going to be much better than people are saying. I think Napier's going to have them up to that game. They're going to give Georgia all they want. Jordan, I will tell you, you know, as an LSU fan, I think 2019 was a once-in-a-lifetime offense that we witnessed. But I also think that last year was a once-in-a-lifetime defense that we witnessed. And I think the reason that you guys have that shiny trophy over there at the Butts Mere building is that defense, hands down. How close are you seeing Kirby's defense coming into this year? How close, say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how close are they now to last year's defense? And how close do you think by the time they hit the cocktail party, do you think that defense will be? Because I think that's where, if the Dogs repeat, it's going to be on the defensive side. You know, the old saying, you drive for show and you putt for dough. It's great talking about Georgia's offense and talking about the tight ends and talking about Stetson, but y'all win championships, always have, the two that I know of, on your defense and running game. How do you think that defense stacking up to that, again, once-in-a-lifetime defense, in my opinion, last year?
Yeah, like Nolan Smith said during an availability yesterday, fans show up, you sell tickets with offense, but you win championships with defense. Right. That was Nolan's point. And, you know, I think at this point, I would say they're at about a 6 or 7 trying to get back to that last year's defense, because that is just such a high bar to reach. And the thing that a lot of people made a very good point to point out, talking to players yesterday, you know, they were very lucky. And it was an advantageous fact that a lot of the players last year were experienced. A lot of those guys had played a lot of snaps. Yeah. You know, guys like Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis. They got a lot of younger guys. And the thing that Kirby has really harped on, even going back to media days, we have talent, but it's inexperienced talent. So the only way you can get, you can change that is to get these guys game reps. And my thing that I've really harped on, even going back, getting ready for these first few games, there's going to be growing pains. These guys that are starting at inside linebacker, I've really talked up Jamon Dumas-Johnson. He's probably not going to play a perfect game. He's not going to quite have the in-game instincts that Nakobe Dean had, where he just knew where plays were going and he was there before the ball was. Maybe he'll have that in time, but it's probably not going to happen right away. That's just sort of the natural way things are, and the fact that guys are going to be asked to play bigger roles. Now, to your point with the question, I think this defense can grow, over the course of the season. I think you get these guys battle tested, and you get these guys where they can figure out they can rely on each other. We may see lineup changes. That's not unnatural to see, them test different guys and see who's up to the challenge. So, yeah, that's such a high bar to hit when it comes to last year's defense. And I don't know if anyone could even do it, even with the talent Georgia has. But I think this still has a chance to be one of the SEC's best defenses, and by proxy and by nature, one of the best in the nation.
Going into the season, Jordan, who are you most concerned about in the East? I think Tennessee's the biggest threat, but a lot of people like Kentucky. Florida, I think, is a couple of years out from being there.
Yeah, mine has been Tennessee. I mean, I think that offense, and you look at what Josh Heupel was able to do in year one, and just the talent they've got on that offense, that to me, if that game was in Knoxville, I may feel a little bit different about potentially calling it an upset alert. I still think Georgia wins the fact it's at home. But the question to me with Tennessee is going to be their defense and specifically their secondary. They did a very poor job against the pass last year, and teams are going to take advantage of that in this day and age. But yeah, I think Tennessee to me is the top, real threat to Georgia, and then probably Kentucky right behind them. But I still think Georgia's in good standing as far as the East, and then very likely would be playing Alabama and Atlanta.
Yeah, and as far as recruiting goes in the state of Georgia, last year, I mean, it's now about 250 a year. Division I players, fourth most of any state in America, coming out of Georgia. You don't think this class is one of the better classes? How many guys do you expect Georgia to sign in state? Because there's a lot of schools like Auburn and Clemson and Alabama, Tennessee that make a living out of coming to Georgia. If they go into Georgia and get a bunch of players this year, what's that going to mean?
Yeah, I think Georgia's in good standing as far as recruiting the home state. Right now they got 5 commits. I think it's a situation where they may add a few more, but this state of Georgia class in 2023, I think it's just a little bit below what we're typical, what we're used to seeing. I mean, some of the top commits are going to places like Clemson, but also, Louisville schools, a little bit below sort of that marquee Power 5. But, I think that Georgia's probably going to wind up with a few more guys from in-state by the time it's said and done. But I think they're in a really good position. I mean, Georgia has 19 commits right now, picked up a big one, quite literally a 6'7" offensive tackle last night from South Carolina, Monroe Freeling. So they've done a very good job. They've got the 3rd overall class in the nation, and they may not have quite the Georgia flavor that we're used to seeing in this class, but I think Georgia's in pretty good standing, and they feel good about what they've got so far and what they're looking to add.
All right, one more question before we let you go. What's the one rivalry you want desperately to see renewed that Georgia traditionally played for a long time, but because of the SEC and divisions and all that got wiped out?
Well, I mean, if I'm talking out of conference, I would like to see them play Clemson every year,
yes,
just because of the nature of, what that rivalry has meant, and, hearing about the old games and, Kevin Butler kicking a 60-yard field goal, that sort of stuff. When it comes to the SEC, if they get away from, where they can play everybody and it's just, say, Auburn, Florida, and South Carolina, I would hate to see Tennessee get lost. I'm from the northern part of Georgia, so a lot of Tennessee fans in my family, a lot of Tennessee fans I grew up with. That would be hard to see that one go away. But if I could pick one that, we see every once in a while, I have been glad to see Georgia get Clemson back on the schedule. But if I had it my way, they would be playing Clemson every year.
Yeah, I hate to lose the Hobnail game. That's a great game.
Yeah. You're talking about Kevin Butler kicking a field goal, something kind of like going, now they're going to ask him to come out and kick a field goal from 100,000 miles. Yeah, that field goal, Jordan. Is that what you're Jordan, I'm going to tell you something. I love having you on this show. Georgia, but the rest of the schools in the SEC. And again, you've been doing this with us for the last 6 weeks or so since media days. But I look forward to having you come on every week because you're a knock it out of the ballpark coverage. Tell people how they can follow you.
Appreciate that, Rob. Yeah, dogs247.com on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill and at dogs247. And yeah, hey, it's game week, and I'm just ready to get to it. And it's been, talking season's always fun, but I'm ready to go out there and finally get to watch it.
All right, we'll get you back on StreamYard next week, man. I'm so fired up, man. I am bouncing off the walls. But have a great week, and again, let's do it again next Tuesday.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
All right, thank you. Hey, Jimmy, I kind of got lost in your question there. That's what I was trying to say. Gainesville, you were talking about Georgia's schedule. Well, I'm not sure which schedule you were talking about. I guess it was about Georgia and where they would be at what point in the game in the season for some of their big games. Was that what?
Yeah. Well, it was that stretch that begins.
Yeah,
that's really the tough stretch. Begins with Florida.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that, again, those first couple of games that people thought might be tough, South Carolina is going to be coming off a really tough game in Fayetteville in week 2, which is most likely going to be a loss. And that's going to be, I think, really favorable for Georgia because they're playing Samford the week before. Yeah. And then with Auburn goes to Georgia a week after that huge LSU game at Jordan-Hare. Yeah. So that's going to be really favorable for Georgia.
Jimmy, hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break because I want to pick back up on this when we get back after this segment because you're breaking it down brilliantly and people need to hear it after this.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BBG for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we are back. Jimmy, as you were brilliantly pointing out that schedule for, these SEC schools, it's every week, it's something different, but I think it positions you and determines a lot on how you play that next week. And you can't let the game a week before, if you lose it, beat you twice in a row. That's what you got to be careful of.
Yeah, and like I said, Auburn, when they go to Georgia on October 8th, they're going to be coming off a really tough game at home against LSU.
Yeah.
That's huge for both sides. And Georgia, in contrast, they're on the road at Missouri, and I just don't see them having many problems there. And then we skip to what we all agreed was a really interesting 4-game stretch for them. On October 29th, the cocktail party against Florida. But leading into that game, Georgia plays at home against Vandy on October 15th. And plus, they get 2 weeks to get ready for Florida after that. So that's a great situation for Georgia. But then from that point on, the very next week, they have Tennessee at home. And I think Tennessee's dangerous for everybody just because of their ability to put up a lot of points on the board. And not only that, but they're able to do it in a hurry.
Yeah.
And then you got Mississippi State and Kentucky on the road. I mean, that's no picnic either.
Yeah, and then I think we can remember the last time State and Georgia played in Athens, it was J.T. Daniels' first start a couple of years ago, and then I think it was Will Rogers, maybe his first start, or if it wasn't his first start, it was maybe a second, and he had a huge game against the Dogs.
Yeah.
And playing in Starkville, that air raid offense, when it gets rolling now, it can cause you some problems. And then coming off those 2 games, then the Dogs go to Kentucky. And like I said, Kentucky, depending on, how they played up to their point. If they're up at 7 or 8 wins by the time that the Dogs come to town, that could really be an interesting ball game. So, but up to that point, though, I think Georgia should be in great shape going into that Florida game as they get ready for the stretch run. Because again, a lot of these guys that hadn't started coming into this season will have 6 or 7 starts under their belts, and I think they'll be ready for that home stretch run.
Yeah, Jimmy.
And Jimmy, to speak to you talking about South Carolina as well, you know as well as I do, you go to Williams Brice into that snake pit on a hot noon, if it is a noon game, which a lot of times it's an early game there. And look, South Carolina Columbia can just be a broiler. I'll tell you what, that's going to take a little bit out of them. They're going to get tested. Between Oregon, I think they're going to beat Oregon handily. But you go into South Carolina, that's going to get your attention early in the season.
Hey, look, Damian Mitchell's on with us right now on the line, WJOX, JOX Radio Sports in Birmingham. We all know it. They do lots of look, there's more to talk about. You need about 8 days a week, 30 hours a day to get all the information. But I met Damian last week at the Coach Safely Foundation dinner in Vestavia, Birmingham. Nobody supports college football like Birmingham. I mean, 85% of the people in Birmingham identify as a college football fan. The other 15% did not get the survey. So I'm telling you, there's nothing like that place. Damian, I met you and realized how close you are to Tommy Agee, who was at Auburn when I was there, from Maplesville, Alabama, your hometown, over there on Highway 82 between Tuscaloosa and Montgomery, and started doing some research and looked up, man, you're a heck of a football player at Birmingham Southern. You did a 10.9 21.96 or a 22.11 in the 200. I love track and field. It's your insurance policy for every sport you play. You're a smart kid. What are you, 26, 27? You're the Renaissance man. I mean, hey, but anyway, Tommy was on the show with us Saturday, and he was raving about you. But I'm going to tell you something. He loves your family. And he said your mother and her 2 sisters, your aunts, support him in anything he ever does. Y'all travel, you support him. And I think that's a great story. And he was really excited, that I had met you and talking about you. And I told him last night you were going to be on Sidelines Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Central. And he's listening down in Andalusia, I hope, or he's out on one of his morning walks or probably working out. That man could leg press guys 1,750 pounds when he was in college. I mean, Damian, Jimmy, Frank, the 3 of us together, maybe we could do that. But Damian, welcome to Sidelines. How are you?
Man, I can't complain about anything, brother. I appreciate, man. I will say, man, once you're from Maplesville, when they say it takes a village, Maplesville is the entire village. I'm telling you, man. Like, I grew up with Tommy's sons. I grew up with Tommy's sons, man. Tori and Tyler, they both around my age group. Yeah. So whenever they would come back home to the country, we'd always link up and, play games and, shoot ball. And, Tori got a chance to play at Vanderbilt, and Tyler ran track down at South Alabama. So the athleticism didn't fall too far from the tree.
No.
But yeah, man, it was such a pleasure meeting y'all, man. I felt so out of whack. I was like, man, how will a dude from Maplesville end up here in a country club in Vestavia Hills, Alabama? Like, wait a minute, what's going on? We have dinner wine. I don't even know what dinner wine is, but I know I can't afford what's on the table, but I'll eat it.
Yeah, listen, that was fun. We were sitting there at that table, and I didn't realize. And Doug Dean, who was just on with us earlier, came over and he goes, I finally get to match and meet the man with that voice that I hear with Landrum Roberts on JOX radio in the mornings. And, I don't know what you do. I don't know what there is to talk about on sports radio in Birmingham. Oh, yeah. I mean, Jimmy, Frank, I mean, let us give you – do y'all ever talk about college football? Kind of tell us about that.
I mean, occasionally we do a deep I mean, it could be a slow day where we're talking about the greatness of Nick Saban over there at the University of Alabama, or we could talk about the dysfunction that's going on at Auburn every other day. We also got UA back in our corner, man. But I will say this: it's Grand Central Station of what you want in your college football coverage. It is down here at JOX 94.5 in Birmingham, Alabama. I promise you that.
He didn't pull any punches, did he, Rob? Right to the heart.
Hey, when he came over to the table, Tommy Agee gave him a hug. When Tommy Agee gives you a bear hug, you may have some broken ribs. Yeah. Holy cow.
Man, yeah.
Tommy.
It was like seeing a long lost friend again. I was like, man, Mr. Tom, what you doing here? He looking at me like, what you doing here, man? It's just, I mean, you don't realize how much time goes. I mean, how much time just slips away from you over the years. And a guy that, I mean, he's seen me grow up from the time I was born all the way up until this point, and has really, really been a great influence. And I mean, when you're from Maplesville, he was always like that shining example of, you can make it out of this small town no matter what. A guy that played, over 10 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
And every time he got a chance to come back home and just sprinkle any sort of wisdom, knowledge, even just to share a laugh or two, he would always, take his time out and do that for him. And I mean, he's always been an inspiration and really helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah.
He can tell a hell of a story. I know that.
God.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, might as well sit down, buckle up. Wow.
Pull up a chair by the fire.
Yeah. He never meets a stranger. I'm telling you, he never meets a stranger.
No, I mean, and that's why, that Coach Safely Foundation, Jimmy, that what we're talking about, Tommy is with Parks and Recreation down in Andalusia, Alabama. And that's not the Wiregrass. It's right there, kind of near it, along off of 331. So it's borderline Wiregrass. But Tommy is just the epitome of an Auburn man. But, your guy that played college football, had great success in the NFL. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings with the Dallas Cowboys, but gives back. And speaking of that, I don't know if you've ever met Ben Troop, played at Florida. As he says, a self-described country boy from Swainsboro, Georgia, was an All-American tight end at Florida for Steve Spurrier and Ron Zook, played 5 years in the NFL for the Titans, and just walked away. I went to my mailbox yesterday. Ben had mailed us a copy of his new book, and it's absolutely incredible. And you know what it talks about? Giving back and thanking the people along the way who help you, but finding ways to give back. And that's what sports, we get caught up, Damian and Jimmy and Frank, so much in this negative narrative. And you know what? Do yourself a favor. Talk to someone like Tommy Agee or Damian Mitchell, Ben Troop, about giving back, how much they thank the people that helped them. And we all can learn a lot from that, Damian, can't we?
Absolutely. And I think, I always say my small town is what made me. I'll always say I'm from Maplesville, Alabama, because that's the only place I know. That's the only place I call home. And it's always been a place that, I mean, like I said earlier, when it takes a village, I'm telling you, Maplesville is the entire village. I know I have a lot of people from that small town that supported me, because as soon as I first landed a job, I was just a producer on jobs. You would have thought that I, ended up buying the station out or something, because they were just so happy to know that, somebody from the small town is accomplishing great things. And, it keeps you humble. It keeps you humble and grounded, because again, like, you dig those roots back there in that small town. And I mean, every lesson I learned from there has propelled me to where I am today. And I can't help but give back to that small. Anytime I get a chance to go back home and just I go and talk to the football team. I go and see, all my friends and family that's still down there. And
yeah,
I mean, like I said, it's the place that made me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we're on Kicks 96.3 in Alexander City, Lake Martin area, Central Alabama, all over on the web, sidelines.live. And we have a lot of listeners in small towns. And I'm telling you, I spent a lot of time in Parkin, Arkansas, about 30 minutes from Memphis, about 1,107 people as of yesterday. And it's farming country, man. Memphis is the largest small town in America. But our listeners in our country, most of our best people come from small towns. Some of them just happen to move to big cities. That's just my take on it. But anyway, Jimmy jumping here with Damian Mitchell, JOX Radio down in Birmingham, who does a daily sports radio show with Landrum Roberts. And this is what we love about this, is talking to the people who are the stories and tell the stories.
Yeah, when you talk about Tommy Agee, I can imagine the stories he has planned for the Cowboys, because, grew up a Cowboys fan, lived in Irving, and was there for a couple of years when he played there in the glory days. And he just missed by 1 year playing on 3 Super Bowl championship teams. And it's amazing that the Cowboys have only won 1, maybe 2 playoff games since that 95 championship team. But golly, just think about the characters on that team. And I guarantee you, he probably had just countless stories for each one. I mean, you probably have a couple of hundred just on Michael Irvin, Emmitt Smith, Aikman. Big Nate. Oh, golly. Hey, Damian, you've probably never seen this, but they did a documentary on Nate Newton when he played for the Tampa Bay Bandits in the USFL. And Spurrier was the coach, and the owner was John Bassett, who was this a wealthy Canadian, but he was just a cool guy. He interacted with the players and all that, and Nate just telling all his stories about how his ultimate goal was to be able to try every food on earth, and that type of stuff. And all the incredible players, Novacek, and people don't realize about that first Dallas Super Bowl team. And Frank, I don't know if you're aware of this or not. They broke through and won that first championship in the 90s, the 92 season. They had the youngest team in the league, but that was the first year in that off season where Plan B free agency came into effect in the NFL. And they started losing 4 or 5 players a year to free agency, and obviously, 3 or 4 years of that, man, your roster is pretty much depleted. Had they not had Plan B free agency, like they did not have, obviously, in the 70s and 80s, Cowboys could have easily won 5 or 6 Super Bowls in that decade. But again, though, the stories, I bet, and next time you see Tommy, get him to tell you a couple of stories about some of those guys, and maybe you might be able to pass them on to us.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he can play with Hall of Famers, man. So, of course, I know he's probably seen the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, it would definitely be entertaining to hear.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and I agree. He got in, and I grew up a Cowboys fan. I'm like Jimmy. I've always have loved the Cowboys because of Tom Landry and Roger Staubach and Dwayne Thomas, Walt Garrison. I think about Bob Hayes,
Dan Reed,
Tony Dorsett. I mean, you can go on and on. Let me ask you something, Damian. You're there in Birmingham, the Magic City, and I think that's appropriately named. I mean, when it comes to supporting everything, Auburn, Alabama, you got that. But what the community did for UAB building that Protective Life Stadium, you think about cities like Memphis, as an example, twice as big as Birmingham. But you've got Memphis there, but you got so many other fan bases there. There's something about Birmingham. There's a sense of community there where people pull together just for the common good. And it's absolutely amazing. I think the Monday Morning Birmingham Quarterback Club last year gave out $1.6 million to, a number of charities. And I think their primary charity is Children's Hospital of Alabama. And that's just an amazing deal. How cool is it day in and day out? We know you talk about college football year round. Are there any other sports? But what's do you have this? You were too young to remember back when Mildred used to call. I don't know if you remember Mildred, but I'm sure you've got some classic callers every morning.
Oh yeah, man. When you think of, like you said, when you talk about Birmingham and just the history it is, that I mean, it has that small town appeal because everybody supports everybody, because we don't have a professional team to hang our hat on that everybody can support. So you either go in Alabama, Auburn, but everybody supports UAB up here. And just look at how Birmingham has grown over the years. The locals, they stay local. That's the biggest benefit of working here at JOX is, we have people that say, for years, they're like, man, I've listened to your show. I've listened to you for Lord knows how long. And I was like, I've only been here since 2019. And people feel as though, you know, like you're an extension of their family when you see them out in public. Or,
Yeah.
you know, I get sometimes I'll be at, you know, a local grocery store or something, and they'll hear my voice and they're like, wait a minute, are you Damian from JOX? I was like, yeah, you know, pleasure to meet you as well. And they'll sit down and have a conversation with you, and you feel like you're meeting family or something because of how close knit we are. And when I tell you that people are local, man, we have a guy that calls in to our morning show a lot, Edward out in Calera, and I mean he's telling us about, you know, his wife, his kids, and things, but just over the air, like we're just sitting around having a cup of coffee, just talking ball, man.
Yeah.
That's the connection that you have, and you know, you don't realize. I think the pandemic kind of really opened our eyes to that, because
Damian, you're right. Hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. As a producer, you know, we got to stay on schedule. We're going to be back, and I want you to carry on after this quick break with more Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with Jimmy Hodge, Frank Duffy, Damian Mitchell, WJOX Radio in Birmingham. And Damian, one of these mornings, you're going to get a call from out in the wilderness, and it's going to be, let's go to line 3 in Tuscaloosa. Speaking of fossils, Damian, how are you? Paul won't take my calls anymore. I'm sure you're familiar with Mildred. And,
That's right.
You know, I first became familiar with Mildred in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. But anyway, I digress. Frank has a question for you. Go ahead.
Well, first off, Damian, congratulations on getting the job that you have. As a young man, I'm sure you must be excited to be able to, talk football and talk sports. And I'm sure you grew up a passionate fan like all of us are, but to ascend to the position that you've got in such a big market, it's certainly commendable. And my question to you is, how do you separate the young man that grew up as a fan of either Alabama or Auburn or whoever, and then now you have to take that fan hat off to actually be a media pro? And I think that's a fascinating thing for people in your industry. I just do this ham and egg to have fun with Rob here, but you do it for a living. How do you separate those two and do it as well as you do to have a career like you've had since 2019?
Oh man, well, first off, thank you for the kind words, man. And I don't take it lightly, man. I still feel like I'm living a dream every day, getting a chance to just wake up and do my job. I mean, a lot of people want the job, but I get a chance to just do it. Like I get a chance to do it. I was built for it. I feel as though as I continue to grow in this business, but really and truly, because I will say this, I got a chance to play college football. Maybe, granted it was a Division III level, I didn't get a chance to play FBS level, but still I got a chance to do the same thing that Derrick Henry was doing or Marcus Mariota was doing during that time. Like I got a chance to experience that. And, once I stopped being an Auburn fan, because I also focused on my job and playing, the receiver position at Birmingham Southern, I mean, I could separate it like that because I realized once I was in that process, I was like, wait a minute, I'm waking up at, 4 or 5 a.m. to go do a workout. So are they. They're just doing it at different levels. Okay, I wasn't blessed with the, 6'4", 245-pound frame. I was blessed with the 5'8", 175 pounds, and it led me to Birmingham Southern. I'm doing the same exact thing that they're doing, just at a different level. So now as I got a chance to go through that, I can kind of separate the passion and the emotion away from it and just analyze the game for what it is, which is the beautiful game that is football. To me, when I watch a game, like I don't have like that emotional tie anymore. I can kind of just look at it, analyze it. I mean, I still have fun with it and everything, but now when I'm watching receiver play, I'm looking at their footwork, or I'm seeing things on the screen that people are like, Damian, how did you see that? What are you talking about? I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the top of the screen. I'm watching this receiver when he gets off the ball. Are they in man free? Are they, they pressed up on the guy? What are his feet going to do? What are his hands doing? So I kind of have that.
You have a trained eye.
I have like that scientific approach to it because I don't overthink it. I try not to, at least. But I mean, there are moments and times where, I tell people all the time that I enjoy when Auburn's good. Like, it's still fun when Auburn's good because I grew up an Auburn fan, and it's one of those things where I still have that soft spot every now and then. So when the Iron Bowl rolls around, I kind of have to take my orange and blue goggles off and look at the game for what it is and say, hey, Auburn is this. They may be lacking in certain areas. And
you still say "War Damn Eagle," just not in the microphone.
Exactly.
Subliminally.
Whisper it every now and then.
Awesome, man. Well, congratulations, young man. That's fantastic. Good luck with your future, and it's great having you on.
Guys, thank y'all so much, man. It was an honor and a pleasure, and y'all guys are awesome, man. Thank y'all for everything.
Yeah, listen. If you can stay a few more minutes with us, got a couple more things I want to ask you about. Your thoughts right now on the SEC. That's one thing I know. Again, y'all talk about it 24/7, and it's what keeps college football alive. Outside of, you got the West. Alabama is a prohibitive favorite. Who do you think's their biggest competition in the West, and who's Georgia's biggest competition in the Eastern Division?
For Alabama in the West, to me, is Arkansas.
Yeah.
I'm not really sold on Texas A&M. I've never really been big on Haynes King. I understand the athleticism that he has at the quarterback position, but I think he's a little too inconsistent. Granted, we've only seen him in 2 games, really one, and then a couple plays in the Colorado game, but he didn't look great against Kent State, and Kent State's not a world beater. And granted, I know it was last year, but again, it's one of those things. He has more interceptions than he has touchdowns right now, and I just don't think that's I don't think Haynes King has made that next necessary step to put Texas A&M at that elite level. But I think Arkansas, in the way that they play the game, because I'll go back and watch that game in Tuscaloosa, and granted, they had a couple more Jimmys and Joes. There's really no telling how that game could have been, because I think that Arkansas, they play with the identity of Sam Pittman, which is tough, gritty, just grinded out football.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to punch anybody in the mouth.
Line play.
Exactly. What they don't have in Jimmy's and Joe's, they make up with of just pure strength and grit. And I think that now when you add another year in the system with KJ Jefferson, you have Rocket Sanders in the backfield. Yeah, you're going to miss Traylon Burks, but I do think Jaden Hazelwood transferring in from Oklahoma is going to be an important piece to that offense as well. And defensively, with Bumper Pool and finally get a healthy Jalen Catalon back there in the secondary, I think that altogether what Barry Odom wants to do on his defense, they make the necessary adjustments there to put Arkansas, I think, in that second. And I think they're the second best team in the SEC West. I think Arkansas is the second best team in the SEC West. And I'm anxious to see that. On the Eastern side for Georgia, I may be alone, but I think it's Tennessee. I think Tennessee, year 2 under Josh Heupel's system, Hendon Hooker, a guy that just threw for 31 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. 10-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio in year 2 in the offense. And I know you're missing Bayless Jones, but adding Brew McCoy, a guy that just, transfers in from USC and now he's eligible. On top of that, Jabari Small run game, you still have Cedric Tillman out there. I think defensively they still have some question marks, but offensively, there's not a team that can match up with them pound for pound, play for play, if that offense is running how it's supposed to. And I just think that Georgia, I'm granted they're not going to have all those first-round picks, or at least they may have future first-round picks there now, but not to the level in which they had them last year. I do think that Tennessee offers that big play adjustment where it's like, okay, if you don't score 14 points in a hurry, you're going to find yourself looking down the barrel of a gun that Tennessee is not going to be – they're not going to let it up. They're not going to let up. So I think Tennessee on the eastern side is posing the biggest threat for Georgia just because of their style of play and the engine that is Hendon Hooker.
I got a question for you. Spencer Rattler, he's at South Carolina now. Shane Beamer has a relationship, with him from Oklahoma. He brought him over to the team. I'm not sure what I think about Spencer Rattler. I got kind of mad last year when he was at a memorabilia conference signing autographs for $150 last year. And I'm like, why isn't he out there throwing with his team, spending more time with them? And I said, I think that's going to cause some problems. And honestly, I think it did with him in the locker room at Oklahoma. I like team players, that's critical. But what do you think about him being in a new environment at South Carolina? Is it critical, and you think it's going to work because Shane Beamer knows how to handle him? Because that's critical, the coach-player relationship, especially someone who's as talented as Spencer Rattler. But again, he has not day in and day out faced what he's going to see on an SEC schedule. What do you think will happen?
Yeah, see, I fell victim to the height last year. I actually picked him to be and again, I don't think he played absolutely terrible when he was at Oklahoma. He just did not play up to Oklahoma standards at quarterback. I mean, granted, he was sitting behind. He had to look back and see a Baker Mayfield, a Kyler Murray, a Jalen Hurts, and how prolific that they were in the offenses. And I just feel as though he never reached those expectations. I do feel as though he pressed a lot. There were some times where I felt as though he was just trying to force too much and he couldn't settle down. And granted, Caleb Williams comes in and goes and makes those necessary plays. I do think a change of scenery for him was big. I think that now he understands that you can be at the highest of the highs and it can all be taken from you. You can come crashing flat on your face, and it's all about how you answer from that point forward. And I think that, what Shane Beamer looks at in Spencer Rattler, because he knows the talent, what it could be if it all clicks. Because you got to think, South Carolina last year, granted, they still beat Florida, and I know Florida wasn't what we know as Florida to be, but still found a way to beat him with a guy. I mean, he was having the GA put on some shoulder pads and say, "Hey, man, we need you at quarterback." He was trying to strat anything that could be at the quarterback position. Now, when you insert a Spencer Rattler in that case, it automatically brings South Carolina up to at least that 3 to 4 range of, they can compete in the SEC East. They could slip up and, scare Kentucky if they're not playing on all cylinders. They could beat Tennessee if they're not clicking on all cylinders, and they can compete right out of the SEC East. Granted, I don't think they're going to be going out there and competing with Georgia right off the jump, but I do think they're going to make a significant improvement with Spencer Rattler at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and I think the smartest thing Shane Beamer said at South Carolina when he took the job is he looked at everybody in that locker room in the team meeting, after he accepted the job, and he said, look, this is not a rebuild. That's not fair to all of y'all that have been here for 2, 3, 4 years, okay? Our job is to go out and win immediately. Just like when a coach comes in and he says, hey, when I get my players here, we're going to do all this. Don't say that. You say, these are my players. Sam Pittman, we had Nathan Perotti, Arkansas player who played 4 years, graduated in May, had him on the show about a month ago, Damian, and he talked with Jimmy and I, and he said the first thing Coach Pittman said was, everybody that I need to win with here at the University of Arkansas is in this room right here, right now, okay? Y'all are why we're going to win. If you believe in us, we believe in you, together, the sky's the limit. That's what you got to have. Jimmy, jump in here with Damian.
Right out of Hoosiers.
Yeah. What do you mean? I didn't know that, but hey, I put on a short sleeve shirt and a clip-on tie and some birth control glasses. I'll give that speech. Jimmy, jump in here.
Well, first of all, if in my opinion, if Muschamp and Bobo wouldn't have completely botched the quarterback situation at South Carolina 2 years ago with Helinski, who really had a strong freshman year, he would be in his 3rd year as a starter. And you saw him against Nebraska Saturday. He was outstanding.
He looked great.
They wouldn't be in this position, but Bobo brought in that Colin Hill from Colorado State, and to say it didn't work out would be a polite description.
Yes, sir.
And Helinski ended up moving on. So, that's really an unfortunate situation. But I will say I agree totally with Damian on Haynes King. I mean, if you watch that spring game, I mean, his footwork was just awful. He just couldn't make, basic throws, and they tried to give him an opportunity at the end of the game, to drive them, 70 yards to win the game at the end. And, I've just got serious doubts. I really think they're going to end up with Max Johnson, because he's really a reliable, for the most part, accurate, mistake-free quarterback. And where A&M is right now as a program, I just think they need somebody that's gone into difficult environments like Frank knows 2 years ago in Gainesville. I think it may have been his first start, and now granted, Florida foolishly decided to hold out Pitts in that game, but still, Johnson had a huge game, and then he made the clutch throw to beat LSU last year. So I think he's actually going to be the guy, and I think they're going to be much better off with him, and I think that is going to be how it turns out. But we all know that quarterback play in this modern day of college football is absolutely critical, and you just have to have a guy out there, especially in the SEC, that isn't going to get you beat, but he's also got to be able to make plays. But
he can swing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
swing it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, I think the SEC is just a fascinating story this year, because I think one of the big storylines is if, South Carolina is going to be able to follow up on their surprising season last year, and with a guy that is very talented like Rattler. Damian, the thing that worried me about Rattler, especially last year, was that when he got benched in the Texas game for the second year in a row, and Caleb Williams came in and won the game for them, after the game, Rattler was clearly not happy. And you got to put your individual goals aside and be a teammate, be happy that your team won. Anytime you win the Texas-Oklahoma game, that is huge. And I'm guessing that probably didn't set a good example, and I'm just wondering if they had some locker room issues. But this South Carolina situation, again, with Shane Beamer, having a background with him at Oklahoma, gives them a really good chance to start anew. And then I'm fascinated to see how Florida opens up against the defending Pac-12 champions, and Utah, having been in the Rose Bowl, and they are the favorites to win the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And then following that game immediately with a facing Kentucky coming into Gainesville, and they should be playing with a lot of confidence. They're coming off their second 10-win season in the last 4 years.
Yeah. Damian, what do you think? I mean, that's some good stuff.
Oh, absolutely, man. Because I'm kind of high on Florida, man. I think that the ceiling for Anthony Richardson is extremely high. When it comes to just all around, just pure, just God-given talent, Anthony Richardson by far is the most talented quarterback in the SEC. Like, I mean, you can't chisel a quarterback that looks that good and built that fast, runs that smooth, and just can make any throw on the football field. It's just all putting it all together and being the best quarterback at the University of Florida right now. I think they're still a little farther behind on defense. You get rid of Todd Grantham because he was uberly aggressive with not as much talent as he needed on the defensive side.
Disaster.
Right, yeah, but I do think they got a little bit. They have a little ways to go, but I think Billy Napier, what he's building, is going to work. I do think it's going to work, and I think it's going to come on the shoulders of Anthony Richardson. He's going to be able to. He's going to have to carry that team, and I think he's talented enough to do it. It's just, will he be able to in the long run?
Yeah, his talent upside potential is off the charts. It really is.
Absolutely. Oh yes. Like you can't go to sleep right now and dream of a better quarterback that looks like that.
He's a wild card in the SEC East.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Because if he can figure it all out, yeah, Florida could be extremely dangerous. At least offensively, can be absolutely unbeatable offensively.
Yeah,
and Napier's really made some surprising strides on the recruiting trail.
Yeah,
and you get those guys that are available in Florida at the skill positions to give Richard some help. I mean, the sky's the limit there.
Hey, Damian, look, if you can, we're going to take another break. If you got time for a few more minutes, got a couple of more things we want to ask you. We're going to be right back in 1 minute. We got Damian Mitchell, JOX Radio down in Birmingham, Frank Duffy, Jimmy Hodge, Rob Browne with you live from Red River Ford Toyota Studios in Wynne, Arkansas, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Check them out on the website, redriverfordtoyota.com. They will deliver anywhere that they can deliver a car, truck, or SUV. Right back with more.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Damian, I was telling my wife Audrey during the break, I said, I love having folks like you on the show that are do a show, and also you are a producer. You totally understand when you're trying to get out to a break. It's like,
oh yeah,
that's something.
Man. I know it.
Bob Lockamy, who was the Paul Feinbaum's producer the first 11 years there in Birmingham, he told us, he said, what he would do with Paul Feinbaum, he would look at him and say, Paul, and Paul would know to stop rather than going, hey, we got to take a break and all this stuff. So anyway, I love that. Got a text from one of our listeners, Caroline Baker, is a freshman at South Carolina. I know her. I took her on her first duck hunt. She's a great shot, by the way. Says there is a lot of excitement. She's from Memphis, but freshman at South Carolina. Just talking about there's a ton of excitement here on campus for Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks. And y'all are all right. You don't know what can happen, but reuniting Shane, I've been a fan of the Beamers since 1987 when Shane's dad, Damian, took the job at Virginia Tech, where my brother-in-law played college football, and he played in the mid-'70s, a tight end. And that's what we love at this time of year. It's talking season, and everybody's undefeated. But if you don't start off with that mentality that you're going to win every game, Damian, you don't have a chance, do you?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I mean, and that's the thing about week one. I mean, everybody starts off with a clean slate. Yeah. Everybody's coming in with a blank canvas, and you start painting the pictures as soon as that first snap happens on the football field. Yeah. As soon as you have that opening kickoff, that's when you start painting your views. And I think that if you don't go into the mindset of having a sense of confidence, but also a sense of paranoia, because you don't know what to expect when week one rolls around, because you can have, coordinator changes, you can have, structural changes on defense. You going from a 3-man front to a 4-man front or something. And you kind of just throw the kitchen sink at your team pretty much day in and day out, while also working on yourself during the fall camp. And then when it comes game week, you lock in. You start locking in. You make those certain, we got depth charts released yesterday, and making those few tweaks and understanding, where we want to be as a football team. And you start painting that picture once kickoff happens.
Yeah. Damian, look, I know you got a bunch of stuff you've got to do. We appreciate you staying on a couple extra minutes with us, and we'll look forward to having you on again soon. How can people follow you and keep up with you on social media and Showtime?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. So if you turn your radio stations, or actually you can download the app, WJOX 94.5. If you're in Birmingham, JOX 94.5 there. Listen to me from 6 to 7 a.m. on Morning JOX with Landry Roberts, and also from 7 to 10 with McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at RunDM6, on Instagram at Damian.Mitchell6. And yeah, you can find me there. Facebook, Damian Mitchell. So I'm pretty active. I'm pretty open, and I'm 26 years old. So anything on social media, I'm pretty much active with.
This has been a lot of fun, and I'm gonna give you a holler after the show. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, man. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Hey man, this is the guy, Jimmy, and Frank. We've all got kids his age. When it comes to social media, it's invaluable to know that social media, because my daughter used to talk to me for years about doing a podcast, and I was like, a what? But you got to understand this stuff, and he moves at light speed. All right, let's do this rapid fire round table. So about 30-second answers or less. I'm just going to bounce back. Jimmy, Frank, I've got the stopwatch going. Jimmy, I'm going to throw it at you first. That line Memphis travels down to Starkville to play Mississippi State Saturday. Memphis started out, I was told, as a 8-point underdog. Now it's down to they're a 16-point underdog. What do you think's going on with that line?
I don't know. I just think Mississippi State's really ready to explode with that air raid offense with Will Rogers. And I don't know. I just got a feeling about Mississippi State that they're going to surprise a lot of people.
I got a feeling. Okay. Frank, your thoughts and comments. Hey, Coach.
I think so, too. I think Mississippi State's going to rack up some points this year. I wouldn't lay 16, not in an opener. Like the first games, I like to take the points. In fact, I had Northwestern actually on the money line and the points. So I wouldn't lay them, but I could see Mississippi State blowing this open by about 3 or 4 touchdowns.
All right, Jimmy, the backyard brawl resumes after an 11-year hiatus. I love that. A hiatus. Pitt and West Virginia. Morgantown's about an hour south of Pittsburgh. They're going to play, I think it's -7. And I'm thinking Pitt -7 in this game. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, well, I'm not a bookie or a gambler, but I'm telling you, Frank, I got to go with Pitt with this one strong. I mean, West Virginia's coming off a horrible year. I know they have JT Daniels at quarterback, but Keaton Slovis is the new Pitt quarterback. They're coming off an ACC championship. I just like Pitt covering easily.
Yeah, and what's funny thing here real quick is you've got 2 former Southern Cal quarterbacks, Keaton Slovis starting for Pitt. JT Daniels went to Georgia from Southern Cal. Now he's at West Virginia. Frank.
I think Pitt's got a shot at vying for the ACC again. I really do. I mean, you know, if Clemson stumbles, Pitt's got a great team. You know, they got good line play. I mean, you know, both their offensive and defensive line lost a couple of folks, but, you know, that's what I think was so strong about their team. Of course, the quarterback last year, but I think they've got a shot at winning the ACC. So, yeah, I think Pitt will come out. They'll easily cover.
All right.
Imagine if they had Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, these lines are being provided by our good friend Shoney the Knife down in Valdosta. That's his new gambling name. Shoney the Knife. All right, Shoney's got some more lines we're looking at. Georgia -17 over Oregon. Mercedes-Benz Stadium this Saturday. Our good friend Matt Dean, his son on the staff, his first year with the Oregon Ducks. Jimmy?
Oh, I just got to go with Georgia. They got too many horses. Georgia's, again, the talent level is just a bit different. But I will say, though, Oregon's good defensively, but offensively, they're just going to have a long way to go. But this would be a good time for them to play Georgia, you know, with a lot of these starters facing the big-time lights for the first time. But, no, I got to take Georgia.
Frank, and I will tell you, I do like Georgia as well, but I really like the under in this. I like the under the 53, just for the reason you just said, Jimmy. I think Georgia's defense is going to come out. They're not going to be anywhere near what they were last year, but I think it'll be enough to keep Oregon in check. And again, you got, you know, Georgia should cover, but I think they keep it in the high 20s. I'll be shocked if Oregon got over 10 points.
All right, this Saturday, Frank's going to be broadcasting. He's going to be on StreamYard from his condo in the French Quarter in New Orleans. Something tells me, Jimmy, let's just go out on a limb. Something tells me that there's going to be a parade or something going by in the background, the St. Aug 100 marching band or something in the background, and someone's going to be making furties at Mother's Deli and throwing them in the air and juggling them. But Frank, LSU -3 in the Superdome Sunday night against Florida State. You know, FSU, LSU, there will be a lot of talent on that field, but LSU's a 3-point favorite. Your thoughts and comments. Coach, I'll just go ahead and ask you a question and hang up and listen. We love you.
I think we're going to have a good outcome. I say wrong accent. Sorry about that. Yeah. I think we're going to be good. Yeah. No, let me tell you something. The Tigers have a lot of talent. And, yes, Florida State got that warm-up against Duquesne. I think that was a positive for them. But don't forget, on the flip side of that, they gave us something on tape to take a look at. LSU has talent for days. You're in a very friendly environment. Obviously, we've won all of our national championships in that place. Even the night of horrors of January of 2012, playing Alabama again, which they should have not been in there, should have been Oklahoma State, but I digress. I think that's going to portend well for LSU. It's going to be a home crowd. I think the place gets rocking. Our defense is, again, got a lot of speed. My only concern is our cornerbacks that we've imported. We'll see what they do, but I like LSU to cover.
Jimmy, 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, I'm surprised the line is as low as it is. I mean,
Me
Florida
too.
State's still trying to find their way, but I really do like Travis, their quarterback. And again, it might be a situation where, you know, both teams are just going to be rough around the edges for the opener because, you know, everybody's going to be nervous and a lot of new starters, but should be an interesting game for sure.
Right.
They're going to unshackle Ojulari and Gay, and they're going to send all sorts of pressure to that kid.
Well, what I like about it is it is a Sunday night game in the Superdome. It's going to be it's going to be the eyes of the nation are going to be on that game. Those Sunday night games early in the season, you can do those. I mean, look, it's Labor Day weekend. Dove season starts in Tennessee. Wow. Starts in Tennessee Thursday morning, 30 minutes before sunrise. Starts in Arkansas. We get to start shooting dove Saturday morning, 30 minutes before sunrise, always, and till sunset. But anyway, you go out, you sit on a bucket, and you fry in the sun. It's just nothing like opening weekend of dove season. But I want to say this about Alabama and Utah State. Shoney the Knife is telling us Bama is catching, they're minus 40 over Utah State. Jimmy, 30 seconds or less. What do you like? Do you like that line?
Yeah, it's close. I mean, I was thinking something like 49-10. You know, that would be right on it. You know, it depends how many Saban wants to put on the board. You know, everybody likes Blake Anderson, so I think a Saban will probably call the dogs off. I think I'd take Utah State in the 40.
I was going to say the same thing. Alabama's going to roll easy, but something about Saban in those first out of conference games. He gets right up to the number, and then somebody gets a backdoor touchdown against Alabama, and they don't cover it. It happened last year as well. So I would take the points, but I guarantee you Alabama's only going to win, but they're going to win by 39. The 40 might stand up, but it'll be 39.
Yeah, as our friend Mark Schlabach, ESPN.com, great college football writer and pro golf writer, doing a lot of golf writing. Mark Schlabach says, look, there are a lot of tall buildings in Las Vegas for a reason.
That's right.
So now here's another one, Jimmy. Utah, minus 2.5 in the Swamp against Florida Saturday. Opening game of the Billy Napier era.
I'm going to go with Utah. I think the experience issue, and again, they just got a lot of players back. Cameron Rising, really good quarterback. And again, I just think they're better than Florida at this stage. I got to go with the Utes.
Yeah,
I finally got a Riverside, Jimmy. I'm going with the Gators, buddy. Are you out there listening? Listen to me. I have said all along they're going to be one of the surprise teams in the SEC. Give me that 2 and a hook. I don't think I'm gonna need it. I'm betting them on the money line. I think the Gators with AR-15 are going to come out and put some points up on Utah. And I'm telling you, the surprise of the SEC East is going to start with a win in this one.
Well, look, Utah, Jim Swarthout, the quarterback. Remember Jim from the movie Fletch? I loved it. Jim Swarthout. What's your name? Harvey Poon. Poon, what kind of name is that? Comanche Indian. It's one of the great movies of all time. Utah's for real. 18 years. Kyle Whittingham's been the coach out there. I mean, they destroyed Oregon last year for the Pac-12 championship. This is a legitimate team. And you know what? The one thing about playing at home is I've got a theory when I bet and pick games. I'm pretty good at it. Very good at it. You're most likely to get mugged in your own driveway because you let your guard down, you know, and some of your most,
you're comfortable. You're not looking around.
That's right. You're not looking around, man. You know, check your corners, man. Keep your eyes open. I love doing this. Shoney the Knife from down in Valdosta. He was just blowing up my phone this morning. He's one of my favorite people, one of the nicest guys I've known for 40 years almost. But, man, I love these lines. Shoney the Knife. All right, Jimmy, got another one. Got another one.
Well, let me chime in real quick to what Frank said.
Yeah.
I think he's got a point that Utah defensively, I was really surprised in that Rose Bowl against Ohio State. Granted, it was Ohio State's offense, but they made absolutely no adjustments at halftime. And I felt that if they did, they could have won the ball game. So if Florida was to be able to get some success early, I've got to be thinking in the back of my mind about Utah's ability to make adjustments defensively.
And Jimmy
and Billy is a great on the fly guy. I watched him in Lafayette the last couple of years. He is fantastic at halftime adjustments. He really is.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the big positives of Billy Napier is his X's and O's as he adjusts mid-game.
Yeah, and the emotions for Florida coming out in that first game, you got to be careful about that. I mean, stuff happens, and you try doing live TV and live radio and live whatever, which we do. Things happen. You got to have that mentality of a quarterback.
And all that emotion stops when that left tackle puts one right in your chop.
That's right. and by the way, and by the way, Jimmy and Frank, and I think everybody would agree, if you ever wonder what happens if you're a quarterback and you've got some NIL deal and you ain't taking your big offensive lineman out for a big steak every other night.
Damn right.
You ever see that movie, the original movie, The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds?
Remember
what happened?
Lookout blocks.
When they realized that he was throwing the game. Yeah. Take care of your big guys. Always take care of your men first. Hey, man, Jimmy, Frank, this is fun. Doug Dean was on with us, Damian Mitchell, Jordan Hill from 24/7 Sports in Athens. Want to thank all of our listeners, our sponsors. We love them. We're here Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. And broadcast again at night, 6 to 8 p.m. Kicks 96.3, Alexander City, the Lake Martin area. We're going to be doing more and more, but I do love this rapid fire roundtable discussion. A lot of games, man. 48 hours from now up in Knoxville. Mark Ham, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. They're already, I can hear the pings of the hammers putting the stakes in for those big tailgate tents. He's got the biggest.
Damn right.
And it is time, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the verge. And listen, go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give out of the goodness of your heart. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And if you ever have any doubts about where you live, we live, as Jack Crystal, a great voice, 58 years of Mississippi State University, said when he announced his retirement, he said, I've been blessed for these 58 years here at Mississippi State University, the proud bulldog, the voice of the Bulldogs. And I've lived in the greatest country in the history of the world. And we all do. But that's what we're here for, folks. We talk about sports. We talk about sports every day, college football, basketball, baseball, and recruiting. Got a great show lined up. We've got some big-time guests that we're working on to get you. One of them used to play linebacker for Oklahoma. You may know him, but hopefully he's going to be on here in the next week or sooner. He's a big-time linebacker. He'll get his thoughts about Oklahoma coming into the SEC. And check us out, www.sidelines.live. We're on StreamYard, of course, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. Again, be back with you tomorrow morning. Got a great show. Breaking news. We'll have it. Check us out. Have a great day, everybody. We're out of here.